Hello, it's me again, and greetings from an evening in Belichka, near Krakow in Poland. I'm not going to lie, this is my first time doing one of these in the evening here, but that's the result partly of my attempting this a few times today. It was very sunny here today and really hot as well. It's quite warm. It's 28 degrees or something. But the first time actually every time I attempted to do one of these earlier today in the afternoon, there was just sun coming through. Even though I put the blinds across the skylights. Skylight. I don't know. Are they skylights? These windows are sort of at an angle in the roof here, because I'm in the roof. Best place for me. So yeah, should really have a painting here. Don't think it would help. But anyway, yeah. Even with the blinds pulled there and here, there's a window above me here. This sun was just glaring in and disturbing everything. Another time, we got a new cat last week, another kind of rescue cat, a cat from the shelter, supposedly about 4 years old, and she's really clingy, and I don't know, she's taken a shine to me, bloody fool, yeah, and as she does with my English lessons, she keeps jumping on me and running across this sort of camera. So she was in shot a lot of the time, or her tail was, because sort of like Jaws, sort of going across. So yeah, so like a shark, I don't know why specifically Jaws, but anyway, and so that was another attempt, failed, and another time we had our daughter, who's now 8 months old, wailing in the background. So, and yeah, and I ended up sort of explaining, that nothing untoward was happening. We weren't torturing her or anything. So, of course not. No, she's teething and just going through another little growth spurt, as they're called these days. But anyway, that's why I'm here in the evening. The sun's gone. It's actually, it's kind of dark now. So, it's the evening. It's better. I've had to put the main light on just to help things. Because, again, I did another attempt before this one, and it was just too dark. Even with the two lights, the two sort of lamps that I've got here in front of me, helping things, they didn't really help much. So I've had to put the main light on. Yeah, I'm just here this time to talk about this, which is the new Grim Humour book. It's the second volume in a series of 3. This is one of the sample copies that arrived on Tuesday. And as with all my books, I always order 20 or 30 sample copies, just to allow the designer and myself and anybody else who may be directly involved with the book to just check through everything, ensure that everything is okay before we proceed with the main run. So that's what I've done here. The sample copies arrived on Tuesday. It's now Thursday, May the 19th. I've been through it. Everything looks good, but the designer, Puppy 38, is presently in England until the end of the month, and I would ideally like him to just give this the once over as well. But what's another couple of weeks when this has already taken months to appear anyway? Should have appeared in February, March, but it even got held up. Even the sample copies got held up at the printers in March by about another month. So just due to some technical problems between the designer and the printer. So another month, another 3 or 4 weeks of ping-ponging because of some technical issues. That's the kind of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So, you know, when I'm complaining, as I often do, that things are delayed for various reasons, that's why. It's not because of anything else. You know, I want these things to appear when I first announce them. You know, or first say that they should appear. So, sorry, my voice is going. I've been teaching a lot today, so and I've done a few attempts of this as well. Anyway, this is what it looks like. It's over, similar to the first book, but with a bigger page count. It's over 400 pages this time, and probably best over here. There we go. Quick flick through for no real purpose whatsoever, because you're not going to see much, are you, from there? But you can see that at least that there are some colour spreads that, you know, from the original pages. What's that? Butthole surfers. Yeah, some other stuff. So yeah, this particular book is dedicated to issues 11 and issues 11 to 14, which were published between 1987 and 1990. The first book was dedicated to the first 10 issues, and if anybody's been paying attention or ever paid attention to Grim Humour when it was initially published between 83 and 93, you know, it clearly evolved, and that is very much evident here as well. The layout style changes quite a lot. The content is also diversified as well. Although we always kept our hand in with some films, mostly horror fare, or people like David Lynch or whatever. We also expanded to cover more esoteric stuff. For example, within these 4 editions, there were features on Daniel P. Mannix, the former circus sideshow artist, magician, journalist, writer, somebody who dedicated a fair amount of his life to documenting or writing about circus sideshow people, you know, the people that used to be called freaks. He even had a book published by Research in San Francisco in the late 80s called Freaks. And another book as well that I've got, Memoirs of a Sword Swallower. Really good book. But anyway, yeah, there's a piece on him, David Lynch. What else? There's a piece on Charles Manson. Probably, you know, it's of its time, really. We were exploring this kind of stuff, you know, serial killers and everything else. As I've got older, probably even at the time, if I'm honest, I thought Manson was a bit of an imbecile, you know, and his followers, his family, even more so. So, but nonetheless, I wanted to sort of, you know, expand the content, the range of Grim Humour at the time. So there's a lot of stuff like that in there. Trying to think if there's anybody else that springs out. Clive Barker. There's an interview with Clive Barker, an old interview that Andy P., my co-editor at the time, and I conducted at Pinewood Studios on set of Hellraiser 2. That was really interesting. Really nice guy as well. Very, very pleasant guy. We were huge fans of the Books of Blood and the first novel, The Damnation Game. So when I say we, Andy P., myself, Gerald Houghton, who used to write for Grim Humour, sadly not here anymore. A lot of my friends in Herne Bay, of whom some continue to write for Grim Humour now and again. Yeah, we're all huge fans of Clive Barker. Ramsey Campbell's in there, the British horror and fantasy author. So there's an interview with him, and some other stuff that's not directly, well, still music related. But there's an interview with Ian Burgess, for example, the Chicago, the late. Again, a lot of people seem to have gone. They're no longer with us. So, but yeah, Ian Burgess is interviewed here. I remember distinctly doing that interview at my old flat in Herne Bay. I think he stayed over after coming down to see my first band playground rehearse, because we got signed to a Vinyl Solution subsidiary called Decoy, run by the French guys in the Vinyl Solution record shop in Portobello Road. Or maybe initially it wasn't in Portobello Road, actually. It was in somewhere in that area anyway. But yeah, I think when we were signed to Decoy, Vinyl Solution was located in the vicinity, but it wasn't actually in Portobello Road. But anyway, yeah, there's an interview with him. He's the person, of course, that mentored Steve Albini as well. Very often overlooked that fact. I've seen it mentioned in a couple of interviews, but Steve Albini went on to this great engineering, maybe producing career as well, but mostly engineering, I think. And Ian Burgess was a key figure on the whole Chicago scene of the early to mid 80s. I understand. So yeah, maybe using him as a segue, the music content in these 4 editions amounts to stuff like Butthole Surfers, Lydia Lunch, who comes across like a petulant teenager. No disrespect to Tom Vague's original piece there, but she doesn't come across very well. But no, I still wanted to keep this in the book though, because that's what we were interested in during this period. Soulside, No Means No, Wire, Robert Smith of The Cure, who's talking to himself. Because I sent him some questions. I could never arrange an interview with him directly. So I think he eventually proposed the idea of me sending a blank cassette to him with all my questions. And he just read out the questions and, as he said, ended up sort of talking to himself for about an hour and a half. It's an interesting interview, I think. I don't think many people have done that. Is it dedication or is it stupidity? I don't know. He didn't even have to do a fanzine interview at the time. It's 87, I think. But I still have a certain amount of respect for that guy anyway. So, but let's not go there. Let's not go down the Cure wormhole, because I still like that group. Who else? Swans, also still magnificent, I think. Wire, I probably said. Some other groups as well that maybe were more Andy P's domain, like Fugazi, Soulside, De Kreutzen, Gore. Actually, I liked Gore at the time as well. The first album, Mean Man's Dream, is it called? Not sure if I've still got that. Probably haven't. It probably went in one of my many purges when I needed money. Anyway, yeah, I'm sure I haven't got it. But yeah, stuff like that. So a Cindy Talker in there as well. So a diverse mix of groups interviewed. And probably the Fall in there again as well. I can't remember. So long ago since I actually started work on this, and I think I finished the text in January, or maybe even December. January, I think. So, apologies for the foggy memory. Even a few months makes a big difference at my age, clearly. So, or maybe not so clearly. So, definitely not so clearly. Definitely not so clear is what I mean to say. There was also stuff like the No More Censorship campaign focused on in this as well. I'm trying to. Oh, there it is. Yeah, there's a little I think that became a T-shirt, a Dead Kennedys T-shirt, I believe, and this campaign was partly spearheaded by Jello Biafra of the Dead Kennedys, and then as now, I remember saying to Puppy 38, the designer, I really want that on the cover. You know, I didn't really stipulate anything else, but I said, please make sure the no more censorship motif is on there, because it's something I still feel really strongly about. And you know, when I think about that whole no more censorship campaign, I'm reminded of initially the whole Mary Whitehouse campaign against so-called video nasties in the early 80s, which I thought was insane. You know, it was absolutely stupid, mindless, as indeed all these things are. I remember that, and at the time, again, being a teenager and meeting up with friends, perhaps every Thursday, Friday, Saturday evening, we would very often go to the local video shop in Herne Bay and rent a few VHS films, and have a little bit of a film festival over the weekend. You know, watching a couple on one or two on the Friday evening, and again on the Saturday night. So, and we would watch all those again so-called video nasties. You know, Driller Killer, all that cannibal stuff, Cannibal Apocalypse, Cannibal Ferox, that Italian stuff as well, Zombie, Fulci, you know, all that work by Fulci, Bava, is it Bava or Bava? I wouldn't know how, even now I don't know how you pronounce it. Bava, probably. Fulci, I said, Argento, of course, all that stuff. Films like Driller Killer, Black Christmas, the Toolbox Murders, was that one of them? Texas Chainsaw, of course, although that's not particularly. I think that was it. I think even that went with the campaign. But anyway, yeah, it seemed almost overnight that the video narcs, again, so-called video narcissies, were removed from not only our local video shop, but video shops right across the country, in the right across the UK. So I remember being disappointed after this campaign had happened in seeing what was left of the horror section afterwards in our local place, and it was tame stuff like Poltergeist, The Omen, I don't know, lots of stuff that I generally didn't really personally care for. I wanted the blood and guts of the video nasties, you know, and I still love horror films now. So, and I'm absolutely fine with all the viscera that's in there. I think there's a real craft to that, to the special effects and the makeup and everything else. I'm sure the people have great fun doing all this stuff as well. So I'm all for it. And I can't hurt a fly. So there we go. So, but anyway, yeah, so we went through the video nasties, and then moving on to this no more censorship campaign in the mid 80s. The Dead Kennedys had issued a poster inside their Frankenchrist album. And the poster was by the late Swiss artist, another person who's long gone, H.R. Giger. And it was called Penis Landscape. I've still got it, actually. And it's called Penis Landscape. It was done in that typical Giger style. And it just depicted lots of, cocks, lots of dicks, cocks, penises, call them what you want, just lined up row after row of them. If I remember correctly, I haven't looked at it for a long time. No reason to, really. But it's there inside the album. I haven't played the album for years, probably. I remember the guitar being pretty good, though. Yeah, some good guitar work on there. I want to fish it out again at some point. But anyway, I typically digress. And this poster, if I remember correctly, again, forgive me if I if I misremember anything, I think the story goes that some kid's mother, some teenager's mother in America somewhere, had bought a copy of this album, this LP. It was a vinyl at the time, for her son, and on closer inspection was horrified, mortified by this poster, and created a huge furore about it. And I think it just kind of grew from there. Maybe this is partly myth. Maybe several incidents actually were behind the furore, but nonetheless, I do remember this one particular story, or something like that. Anyway, some kid's mother kicking up a stink. How dare my son look at anything like this? How dare this happen? I'm disgusted. Disgusted of Wyoming, or whatever. And that led to a court case, I think, not only with the dead Kennedys, Jello representing the dead Kennedys, but also I think there was a rap artist. Was it Ice-T? Perhaps one of those people. One of those people. One of those kind of key. That's what I mean. One of those key rappers of the time. Hip hop artists of the time. I'm pretty certain it was Ice-T, and I think it was in court that Jello and Ice-T found that they got on, and they even collaborated on a song together later on maybe an Ice-T album or Body Count album. Again, all this is a bit foggy. I don't have any Ice-T stuff actually. I do have a lot of rap and old rap and hip hop, but no Ice-T. Anyway, they went to court, and I think they lost the case, and that was the beginning of what was called the PMRC in America. It's this body, this organization, spearheaded by Tipper Gore, and it was concerned with music and art on music, maybe the packaging as well, that was deemed offensive. So with rap artists, of course, with hip hop artists of the time, maybe still, there was a lot of swearing. Well, as with punk as well, of course, hardcore punk, whatever. There was a lot of swearing. Hip hop artists were accused of being homophobic and sexist as well. Maybe it's true in some cases. I don't know. Maybe it's true in cases with some non-hip hop artists as well. But I'm sure there was a lot of irony there as well, regardless of the genre of music. Anyway, the PMRC led in turn to the No More Censorship campaign, and we supported that. We got behind it at Grim Humour. I don't think there was an exception to this. I think none of us were into censorship of any kind. And again, I haven't been since I sort of first started thinking about this when I was, with the video nasties, 15 years old, 16 maybe. I've always been against it, and I know it's prevalent again now as well. I know we've got this so-called cancel culture going on. It's been going on for the last few years with stand-up comedians and certain books and writers and films, of course, being deemed offensive. It's an ongoing story. It seems to be like a pattern that sort of keeps recurring. Unfortunately, you'd think people would know better now, but clearly they don't. I've never needed policing with my tastes. I expect all adults to feel pretty much the same way. Not suggesting for a minute that minors, children, young children should see Pasolini's 120 Days of Sodom or whatever. Of course not. But as adults, I think we're free to watch, view in an art gallery, read, write, listen to, whatever the fuck we want, you know. I feel very strongly about this. Yeah, so it's kind of sad that yeah, we've got this thing going on again now, and it's been going on for the last few years. It's absolutely ridiculous. I think it's rampant idiocy. It really is. It's mindless. It kowtows to cretins, you know. Um, I think there are enough cretins out there already without us, you know, kind of capitulating to them, you know, as well, you know. But anyway, so in relation to that, actually, I think there's a Steve Albini interview here from when he was in Rape Man. Again, a name that was very off-putting to a lot of people at the time, and I remember the Blast First staff, or the women that worked there, Pat Naylor, Liz Naylor, these people. I think they didn't they didn't feel good with this name of Steve Albini's first post Big Black Group. Again, what can I say? But it's sad, really, in relation to what I just said about, you know, this kind of council culture and whatever. Steve Albini's kind of gone pretty much the same way, and yeah, it's, you know, former punk rocker offended by certain things turns into a wet tissue. Dear, oh dear. Sorry, Steve. You know, it's utterly moronic. I expect better of people like him as well. You know, pandering to woke culture, as it's called. I find it absolutely abhorrent. Yes, I'm offended by that. The irony. Yeah. So there's Steve Albini in there, and what did I want to say? Yeah. As with the first book, this is a collection of reprinted original pages and re-edited highlights. There's new editorialization in there from myself. There's also some additional material by Gary Livermore of Third Mind, Edward Caspell of the legendary Pink Dots, in relation to his Tear Garden project. Who else? Which I think was an add-on to a Skinny Puppy interview, actually. So I forgot to mention them. And who else? Cinder Flame of Cindy Talk, piece by him. There's a forward, very short forward by Tom Vague. There's also a chat between Andy P and myself at the back of the book as well. So you can, you know, ignore it if you want. But yeah, there's a chat between the pair of us because we were responsible for producing most of the work in Grim Humour during this period. There were other writers as well, and I should say also that because of I'll put that down again, because of what I was trying to do with Grim Humour at the time, I had lots of people contributing to Grim Humour, to the magazine. There was a run of 2,000, 2,500. It was nationally distributed by SRD, Southern Records Distribution, and it reached the furthest corners of the country, and indeed various mail order outlets around the world as well. Japan, America, of course, parts of America, Canada, Australia, South America even, I think. I'm sure there was somebody in Brazil who would stock copies. Europe, of course. Yeah, even Poland, where I live now, people took copies. So it went far, and I think it's fair to say that I was developing these big ideas for Grim Humour at the time. So I thought it would be good to include as wide a possible a range of music that was in these kind of parameters, you know, underground, obscure, related to punk, post-punk, hardcore, noise, electronic, post-industrial, whatever. I wanted to stay within the, that kind of framework, but nonetheless, sometimes we went beyond it because Stefan Javorgin got involved later, and he would start writing about free jazz and whatever, Albert Eiler, and maybe even people like Miles Davis and whatever. Actually, I think there's a Miles Davis review, not by Stefan, but by somebody else in here. So our taste, well, my taste was certainly starting to go in these directions in the late 80s. There's also a piece by a Polish friend of mine called Wojtek Kozielski on Soulside as well. So they're included. So there's quite a lot of additional material there. I shouldn't forget him. Wojtek's a good friend of mine, and he really applied himself for this sort of piece on Soulside. So lots of additional material, lots of re-edited material, lots of original pages, as indeed the first book did. Excuse me, I think I need a gulp of this. Don't usually drink beer in the week, but my wife actually encouraged me to have one. Don't know why. So, I think it's her way of saying stay in your room. Have beer and don't come near me. But yeah, generally I don't drink alcohol in the week these days. Don't really drink that much over the weekends either. We've got an 8-month-old daughter, so don't think it's a good idea to be drinking too much around children of any age, young children. Maybe it's okay when they're teenagers or whatever, but young children, I've always been uncomfortable. My real dad was a big drinker, so it's not good to go down that path, and I don't really want to be like my real dad, so in any respect. Yeah, I say real because I've got a stepfather as well, and my real dad's also gone. So, oh dear. Yeah, lots of dead people in this upload. Don't know why it puts a smile on my face. Don't mean anything nasty by it. Not even to my dad. So who I hadn't seen for many, many years. But anyway, I think I've rambled. I wanted to keep this short. It's typically gone over the 30-minute mark. Excuse me. Maybe just very quickly, a shout out again to Puppy38. Always does a really good job with the design. I've still got copies of the first book available. You can pre-order this still. I expect copies will be from the main run will be with me in late June. If you've pre-ordered it already, the second book, thank you for waiting and for being very patient. I really appreciate it, not only with the books, but with everything that I do. I'll talk about vinyl in the next upload. There are also copies of the Adventures in Reality book still available, and Tales from the Ghost Town. And the Ramley book has gone. It's long gone from here. There might still be copies, 1 or 2 copies left with Sound Dome in Italy, and maybe a few other stockists, round and about, dotted over the world, throughout the world. But generally it's sold out. And as I said in various newsletters, I might well do an updated version of that at some point, maybe in another year or so when there's more content to add. Might even change it slightly as well, and maybe we can expand it with JFK and Kleistvar and whatever, and add to the interviews. Because Ramley are going to be active again later this year. So, and I guess they'll have a new album coming next year as well, perhaps. So we will see. But anyway, yeah, I've definitely rambled far too long. I'm really, really sorry about that. I just can't seem to. I always want to keep these to 20 minutes or so at the most, and never happens. So I'm really sorry about that. I really am. And yeah, thanks for watching and listening. If you've got to this point and haven't already switched off, so I'll be here again soon, probably. Thank you very much. And on that note, cheers. So, very nice.